Hi guys, just bear with me one moment. So sorry. Um, Start in a minute. So just checking that we're all live across. Okay, I believe we are. Apologies for starting late and hi. Very nice to see you all. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you also for everybody in the group for sharing the questions. Thank you very much, Christopher and Abby in particular. So there's a few different things that I wanted to touch on today, and so we're going to be covering the questions that you've shared, but also it gives me a really great opportunity to dive into some of the work by Byron Katie as it relates to some of the questions. So let me just fiddle with a few different things, and I think we're good to go. Okay. So the first question is, how do we bring the more subtle things to the front of our mind, which may be holding us back? So the subtle, he was referring to the unconscious and subconscious beliefs. And second to that is, how important is it that we bring them to out to the front? So obviously there's a lot of things that we don't really know. It's like a blind spot. Most of the time, our thoughts, our beliefs are like these constructs around us that are supporting our everyday living. We take for granted, so you can't often see what they are. And so it is typically hard to find them. Where it's helpful is because um, or rather, where you can identify them easily or more easily is if they're causing you pain or discomfort, if they're making you feel anxious or hurt or alone. But I believe that he was referring to, how can you kind of dig apart or piece out some of those unconscious, subconscious beliefs. Um, Now, it will feel very much like your framework. So within your framework of who you are, your personality, all of the beliefs that have built you into today, um, it will feel like your walls. And therefore, you have to question it. You have to check whether you want to continue believing that these walls are there, or you want to expand your comfort zone. An example of something that uh, of a sort of a subconscious belief would be where you feel things just are the way they are. Say, default to something. So if you like, I'm not going to do X, Y, Z just because I can't do it. I'm not going to do X, Y, Z because that's just not what we do. So can you, for a moment, step outside of yourself to see what someone else might do? So that's a way of doing it. So I'm later going to touch on a much clearer way uh, when you've got a sort of a painful piece. But if you're not really sure as to what your limiting beliefs are, or your subconscious or unconscious beliefs and behaviors are, try and view it from an aspect of somebody external to you. So, whether that's a make believe person or not, imagine stepping outside and say, what would that person do in this situation? In the situation that you're in right now, what could that person do? And then ask yourself, why wouldn't you do it? And why couldn't you do it? So it's in that asking why that you can really interrogate those subconscious or unconscious beliefs. Um, Now, Byron Katie, as I sort of mentioned earlier, she has written an amazing piece of work called The Work. And just to kind of outline it, the work, in her words, is a practice. And every time that you do the work, you become enlightened to who and what you are, the true nature of being. So to question what you believe is an amazing gift that you give yourself, and you have it all of the days of your life. So the answers are always inside of you, just waiting to be heard. So that's something that Byron Katie's really she's got some fantastic audible audio books that you can watch, and sort of YouTube channel as well. So check that out. But it really centers around the four questions. So let me see if you can. I have to move my screen a little bit. Okay. So if you in this scenario, this is your whether you're triggered by something or you notice that you're having a stressful thought or a negative response, this is where the work is fantastic for you to dive into these 4 questions. So, you can do it in the moment when you're feeling that stress, you can run through these questions, or you can have some time that you do self-care or your personal development journaling, and you can write it down, or you can just think it through and notice who or what has upset you and why, and try and recall that situation as clearly as you can. So the 4 questions are: 1, is and often, especially if you are really triggered by this situation, often the answer to that will be a knee-jerk, "Yes, it is true. So and so thinks I am an idiot," or "So and so thinks I'm incapable," or "So and so said X, Y, Z, and that's really terrible," or um, let's use something that someone I know has brought up recently to me. So when I always make mistakes is the the negative limiting belief. So, 1, is it true? Do you always make mistakes? And then the first, response might be, "Yes, it is true." The second one is, can you absolutely know that you always make mistakes? Is that true? Now that second question is huge because when you really think about it, and is it absolutely true that you always make mistakes? And in all honesty, it's not true. So that kind of loosens the grip on that belief, and so you can really start to peer into it and pull it apart. So the third question then is, how do you react? What happens when you believe that you always make mistakes? And this is a sort of at this point, you really should try and tune into how do you feel. So how do you feel physically, emotionally? Feel stressed? Do you feel upset? Do you feel that you are useless? What's the thoughts and feelings that go through your mind when you repeat that statement? Um, and really try and get into the physical presence, the emotional sense of it, and then ask and really think to yourself, who would you be without that thought? And this is now I'm calling really to ask yourself to reflect and think, okay, imagine if you didn't feel that you always make mistakes. How would you feel? Would you feel relief? Would you feel happy? Would you feel capable? So, whenever you get to the point where you think that you've identified that there is potentially a limiting belief, this is the structure of 4 questions that can help you identify what that limiting belief is. And then you can see if it's not true, and you can see how it's limiting you because it really in this 4th question, who would you be? What would it be like if you didn't have that thought? So that's a fantastic, kind of work around and how to get out of those limiting beliefs and identify. So Christopher, I really hope that kind of answers your question, in greater depth. Oh, and I think there was another one as well, and how important is it? So, um, ultimately, the whole purpose of identifying your limiting beliefs is for growth, personal development. If you're happy being the same you today, tomorrow, for the next year, um, then you can carry and if you're happy where you are, and you don't want uh, to change anything, then that's absolutely fine. But if you're not happy where you are, if some area of your life is not, um, at peace or in harmony, then really identifying those unconscious beliefs is a great step, a great advancement into just evolving, um, who you are. And my personal belief is that life is all about learning. It's all about developing and, going through this journey of discovering yourself, evolving to, um, what your fullest potential could be. So I feel that it's really important to uncover those, unconscious and, subconscious beliefs. But that's my personal view, and everybody's entitled to what resonates, with themselves. So I'd encourage, if this is something that you do wanna do and you do wanna work on identifying your limiting beliefs, then check out this process of sort of those 4 key questions. It's really great, and I've used it numerous times, and, it is quite amazing how you can transform, identify what the problem is, and actually see that you're reacting to something that's beneath what you thought it was in the first place. And then you can, it essentially personalizes it, so you see, ah, you're actually reacting to your own thoughts, not necessarily what somebody else has said or done. So the next question was, is there a simple way, or what is your go-to hack for mindfulness? So when he said this, I was thinking, one of the quickest ways that I use often is to tune into sort of whether it's an energy or a resonance, or, what I feel resonates with, and I'm gonna kinda take you through this process, and, for example, peace, happiness, joy, or love. So, first of all, I would say that pick one. What do you want to focus on in your life? In a year's time, out of these 4 things, and there could be other ones, what is it that you want to feel? Do you want to feel more at peace? Do you want to feel more happy? Do you want to feel more joyful? Do you want to feel full of love? So I'd suggest, if it is, pick that one. It doesn't have to be from this list, but pick the one of your own and then hone in on it and use it daily. So whether that's, going forward, or that's just for the next month. Say, for example, um let's pick joy for me, for in this moment. And there's 2 components. One is for the actual practice, but the second one is, once you identify what it is that you're trying to create, it enables you to get back there, more easily, and it can build this narrative that you are a joyful person, or you are a happy person, you are full of love. So, for example, if we're honing in on joy throughout my day, then I would tune into that joyful energy, whether I'm, just driving, whether I'm doing some work, whether I'm washing up, whether I'm, whatever my activity is. Once I've identified it, I try and tune in then to this moment of, joy. So it could be called mindfulness, or it could be just representing or resonating with that energy, and that, um imagine that you feel that joy. Imagine that you feel it, radiating out of you, and you tune into that emotional energy and build it and blow it up and, really embody it. So that would be my hack, to a very simple act of mindfulness, which really helps to explore and bring in more of those positive, feelings. And all of these things have such a positive, uh, uh, impact onto the next. It's kinda like a snowball that grows and builds, and the happier you are, the more things that you attract that you're gonna be happy for. The more things that you're grateful for, the more things that you have to be grateful for. So the more joy, love, or peace you have, it has that positive, contagious energy about it. The next question was, thoughts on self-care. It's been a really intense week, and the more intense it is for me, the less I seem to know what I can do to look after myself. Um, let's look, uh, to build your own sort of, self-care kit. So I really understand this. I understand what she's saying. So it's been an intense week, and the more intense it is, the less likely she is to go to, look after herself. So I think it's really important to have unique self-care toolkit that you can tap into because you know that's, um, they're yours. It works for you, and you can call on it whenever you need it. So I thought, let's build your own and give you some examples of mine that might stimulate you to, come up with your own toolkit. I think it's really important to understand, um, specific stresses. So are you feeling, overwhelmed from a work perspective, a relationship, whether it's health, is it the environment, is it noise, is it clutter? All of these things can cause stress, and dependent on what it is that you're feeling that you're dealing with, therefore a different tool will be relevant. So, it's important to try different toolkits, different, things that you learn. What works for you, what works for me might not work for you. What might work for you might not work for me. So there's kind of 3 elements that you can find in your toolkit. And that's really to support you physically, emotionally, and mentally. So, physically would be things like tactile things that you, whether it's movement, whether it's breath work, it could be smell, like aromatherapy oils, could be being in your bed, uh, wrapped up in your duvet or a foam roller for sort of releasing stress, a warm bath or sensory, sort of touching your surroundings. Emotional, that could be journaling, so writing down your thoughts and feelings, um, reading motivational books or podcasts. And then mental, so apps for meditation or games, or for me, it's a show. And I don't watch TV, so apart from when I'm trying to do my self-care, and apart from when I go to see the movies. Um, so I use shows as a way to de-stress as part of my toolkit. So, ideally, you would have a regular scheduled time for yourself. For example, every night that you'd have some dedicated self-care time. But if that's not something that you can do or want to do, then just make a commitment to yourself that whenever you have a particularly difficult day, or you're dealing with X, whatever your situation is, that you'll take an hour out of your day or set time out of your day whenever that occurs to do your self-care activities. And so just to touch on the ones that I have are really split within sort of the physical, emotional, and mental. Now, all of them have different, varying degrees of supporting me. Some will only work when I am lightly stressed, and it will make a huge difference to my day. So, for example, I might not choose singing if I am really intensely stressed. I might play my flute if I feeling, uh, more emotional and looking for a transformative experience. Might watch a movie if, and that's probably one that I could be in a range of, I could be quite stressed to not stressed at all to watch a movie. But in all of these different scenarios, there's different variations um of levels of stress and different solutions. So, from a physical perspective, a warm bath, burning incense, holding rose quartz crystals, go to sleep, snuggling in bed, exercise, going for a walk, dancing or singing. And on the emotional side, reading or listening to motivational books or podcasts. I tend to use these often anyway. So I like to always be guarding my mindset. I want to feed my mindset, and so I'm often listening to audiobooks specifically to feed myself with whatever it is I'm trying to create, whether that's um, motivation, spiritual goal, or education. That stimulation, I use it, and I find it really helpful. Um, on the emotional side, another side is sort of dialoguing with myself, and you could obviously journal, but this is what I do. Um, Spending time in silence, spending time in nature, being near water, sea, or a lake, playing my flute. And then on the mental side, um, watching TV or a series, tidying up my space, spring cleaning, guided meditations, or energy matching. So, and energy matching is what I talked about earlier, that kind of my hack for mindfulness. So those are all the aspects that I use for my self-care kit, and I'd recommend that you explore all of the different things that might be more relevant to you, the things that you enjoy based on what you've been through, based on what you find, enjoy could be anything, as long as it soothes, makes you feel better, changes and transforms your emotions and your feelings. So I hope that's answered all of your questions. Um, Please feel free to send more questions, or so I was just check and see if there's any questions here that I can answer. But no, thank you very much, and I hope that you have a lovely evening. All right, take care. Bye.